Welcome to the Travel Tidbits Podcast, hosted by me, Jamie Weitl, travel advisor and owner of Pineapple Escapes Travel. Join me as I share the latest travel news, top destinations, and expert tips for the savvy traveler. Because after all, travel makes life sweeter. Welcome back to the Travel Tidbits Podcast, where we share travel tips, destination inspiration, and everything you need to make your next trip unforgettable. I'm your host, Jamie Weitl, and today I'm so excited to be joined by one of our Pineapple Escapes travel experts, Eva Pan.
Hi.
Hi, Eva. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I picked you for Bucket List Adventures because you have taken some amazing trips and made me want to go on them from your pictures and your highlights and everything. So I want to talk about some of your personal favorite trips, what you think is on trend for those bucket list adventures, and how we can help as travel agents for those people who are looking for these types of trips. So before we kind of dive into this, can you talk a little bit about why you decided to be a travel agent, what travel means to you, and how you define this idea of a bucket list adventure?
Sure, yeah. So I'm sure you've talked to a lot of travel agents on the podcast so far. So some of what I say is probably going to be, pretty similar to most of the travel agents out there, but obviously I love to travel. During the day, I work in healthcare. I'm actually an oncology pharmacist. So to me, I've always planned all of my own trips, planned trips for friends and for family. And then during COVID, when healthcare was sort of rocky for a bit there, I got kind of bored during the day. I'm not going to lie. So, I was kind of like trying to find other things to do. And actually, I came across one of Jamie's posts in a Facebook group. And I thought, this is always something that's been in the back of my mind about trying to do. And so I applied to join the agency and then started with Pineapple Escapes in 2022, I think it was. So about 3 years ago. And it's been really interesting and definitely a really big learning experience. I've never really done like a sales type of role, but for me, it's a really nice escape from my day-to-day work in healthcare and especially in oncology, which can be a really difficult, serious, sober environment. So travel is I love to put on my travel agent hat and think about planning vacations, which is so fun. And I'm very detail-oriented, very organized, and for other people at least, I'd say. So it was, I think becoming a travel advisor was a good fit. Travel to me means it's an escape from reality, but it's also you're still who you are when you go to a different place, but you can sort of take a breath of fresh air, be in a different environment, learning and seeing different cultures and people around the world, I feel like is so impactful to me. And one of my favorite things actually when we travel is actually going to grocery stores in other countries, because I feel like it's just, it really grounds you. And it's almost like, yes, I love to travel, but I also get homesick, right? But when you go to the grocery store, you're like, oh, like, I'm just like I'm like
Everybody
living here,
this, yeah.
Exactly. And it's like comforting. You see like familiar brands or you see new brands and you're just sort of like, oh, I'm just living here. And it's not as scary even going to a new place. So I love that aspect, just interacting with different people and seeing how like around the world, people are still very similar when it comes down to it. And then bucket list travel. That's right. That's what we're talking about. So I think bucket list travel is really personal. And it's just whatever is on somebody's personal wish list. Like it doesn't have to be a grand adventure, in my opinion. It could just be you want to stay at that really nice spa hotel in the next town over, or you want to go fly across the world and do these amazing, skydiving, whatever, bungee jumping, like really anything can be bucket list travel as long as it's on your personal list to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think sometimes we get caught up in like the really big trips, like the pyramids and Antarctica and some of those like really, really big trips, when a bucket list trip can also just be, I've always wanted to stay at Hotel Del out in San Francisco. Like that's
right. Yeah.
Like it can be little things like that. It can be bucket list adventures as well. And we can help you with those across the board. So I know that you keep up with travel trends probably a little bit better than I do. I mean, being younger does have its advantages, but
You're on social media a lot.
So what do you think some of the most trendy bucket list trips are right now for travelers here in 2025?
I feel like everyone and their cousin is going to Japan these days. Japan is so hot. I know, Jamie, I think I have a trip planned there.
Yeah,
is it next
we're
year?
going in May. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yep. I was just there it's August this year. So last March, which is a great time to go for cherry blossom season. But honestly, I feel like since the pandemic has ended, we'll call it, Japan has really gone on everyone's radar. And it's a great destination, honestly. It's really friendly for tourists. It's foreign, it's exotic. It's different for a lot of people, but at the same time, I think it's really approachable for the Western traveler. The subways, the metro system, everything is just so easy to navigate. The drivers don't really speak English, but it's still okay because you give them an address and they will bring you where you need to go. But just in general, I feel like it's really tourism friendly, and the food is fantastic and the culture is fascinating. So that one is definitely really hot, and I think for a good reason. Also, honestly, I mean, Italy, everybody wants to go to Italy. Italy's great. What else can you say?
Yeah. Gelato, pizza, pasta.
Exactly. It's popular, always and forever. But otherwise, Europe, I think, has also been trending a lot these days. Portugal has really been up and coming. Great value for your money, such good food, lots to see, lots to do, and not too big. So you can kind of hit up a lot of destinations within the country. And also the islands, the Azores, also great, especially for our East Coaster. It's a little bit closer than if I'm trying to get to Hawaii or something. But yeah, I think Europe has really been lots of destinations in Europe, Greece. I feel like I get a lot of requests for Greece. And even within Italy, Sicily is really hot, post White Lotus. Speaking of White Lotus, we got Thailand. Yeah. Thailand's booming. So a lot of these hot spots from TV shows and from pop culture, I feel like are really trending these days.
Yeah, I would agree. And I am a White Lotus fan. So I agree. They have definitely helped put some of those places on the map. And then the first season was in Maui. So, I mean, Hawaii is always a great destination as well. Is there any place that's really surprised you in terms of how popular it has been, or the clients that you've had reaching out that you've been oh, I had never really thought about that? I know you think about all kinds of travel, but is there any specific place that you've been kind of surprised by?
I kind of I guess it's sort of talked about this just a little while ago, but honestly, Japan, I'm surprised, but also not surprised in its popularity. I guess it's one of those destinations where I feel like Asia is it's an area where there's a group of people who are really hardcore, love Asia, really want to go to Asia. And then there's a lot of folks who don't ever really consider it. So to me, Japan was interesting that it got really popular. But on the flip side, I'm also not surprised that it's so popular because I said, it does have, the culture is really fascinating. The food is phenomenal. I mean, who doesn't love noodles and and sushi? Well, I guess some people don't like sushi, but the fried chicken, everything. Yeah. There's so much to, and there's it's very quirky. There's interesting quirks to the culture that surprised me in the fact that it didn't seem like people would be interested in certain facets of the culture. But at the same time, I feel like their country is just so well done. It's very streamlined. It's very organized that I can understand why it really attracts tourists. It's easier to go to Japan than say, oh, I want to go to China. That to me seems oh, you really have to go with a tour group or something to China. You really have to know what you're doing when you go to China. Whereas Japan, you can work with a travel advisor to sort of plan your main destinations, and travel between the cities and planning your lodging and stuff, which I help do for clients. But once you get there and you're in the city, honestly, a lot of it, you can really just walk around and explore yourself, and you're not going to feel scared and sort of you have no idea what you're doing, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So we are going to Japan in May. I let my son pick. He is graduating from high school this year. And I said, you can pick wherever you want to go for your graduation trip. And he decided on Japan. So we're actually flying into South Korea first.
Yeah,
And
nice.
then we will do a cruise all the way around Japan. It's like a 12-night
so awesome.
cruise. So we'll get to see all of the different places. And then we're ending in Tokyo and going to Tokyo Disney. And that part's really for
yes,
me.
you have to, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that part's really for Mom. But I mean, Mom should get some credit for the senior.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mom's paying for the whole thing and for college. So
true.
Mom can definitely pick.
Yeah. So that's our plan for that one. And then the girls haven't fully decided because they'll be graduating the next year, but they are talking about China. So of course I started, digging pretty deep in that. And I kind of agree with you. I think we will do probably an Adventures by Disney or some kind of a tour for China, just to be able to see the highlights of what we want to see for at least our first trip over there for China. But I agree. I think those are big bucket list destinations and things that even my kids who are still young are excited to see and want to see as part of adventuring out and doing more things. So let's turn the spotlight back on you a little bit. So you have had some amazing trips just since you've been an agent with Pineapple Escapes, and I love to see your pictures and hear your stories. Some of my favorite pictures have been your trip to Dubai and then your trip when you went to the Arctic Circle. I thought both of those were amazing. So let's talk a little bit about some of these bucket list adventures you've had over the last few years and what some of the highlights of those were for you.
Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about Dubai for a second. That was a few years ago, but that was a really cool trip. So actually, the Arctic Circle or the Svalbard trip, that was probably one of my top bucket list destinations so far. So something about me is that I have this like weird fascination with really remote and cold places. I don't think I would necessarily want to live there all year, but for whatever reason, I just find them really fascinating. So last May, we went on a cruise with the Norwegian shipping company called Hurtigruten, and they're a fascinating company. They're over 100 years old, and they were business, like shipping company type cruises, and then they expanded to tourism, and they're really embedded in the culture of Norway, and they're like a huge part of the country's history and culture, and they cruise all up and down the coast of Norway. So they have a cruise that goes to Svalbard and then down the coast of Norway. They have a bunch of different itineraries. But the one that we did was Svalbard and then cruising down the coast to Bergen. We ended in Bergen. So the Svalbard part was so fascinating to me because a lot of people, first of all, haven't even heard about Svalbard. But I had been watching these videos about people living in Svalbard for like years. And I just thought it was like just so interesting. So it's this really big archipelago up in the Arctic Circle. And it's actually the northernmost human settlement on Earth is Longyearbyen and then New Alesund. Sorry, pronunciation is a little rocky, but New Alesund is actually this little scientific colony, I guess you could say. Like I think it's like less than 100 people who live there year round, and they're all scientists. And so the only way to see that particular town is through a cruise. So Hurtigruten cruises up there, and a few other companies do as well. But you can't really just visit there as a tourist on your own. You kind of have to go with one of these cruise companies. And so working with a travel advisor, we can get you aboard one of these cruises if you really want to see those towns. But flying into Longyearbyen was like just insane. The scenery is just these ginormous snow-capped, I guess they're technically mountains, but they don't even look like, there was no greenery when we went in May. It was all snow, and it just looks so barren, but also like just beautiful beyond what you can even really imagine. And we spent like 2 nights or so out in Longyearbyen before the cruise, and we went on a really nice full day cruise just around the waters and spotting wildlife and things like that. Did not see a polar bear, which is really rare to see, but saw a bunch of like other animals. And then the actual cruise with Hurtigruten was about a week long. So after the Svalbard portion, then we cruised down the coast of Norway. And I had been to Norway before. My husband hadn't, but I love Norway. It's one of my favorite countries just because I love like landscapes and beautiful scenery and things like that.
Yeah, the fjords there are just gorgeous. And I mean, it has that cozy feel.
Yeah. I would definitely like in my next life or adjacent life, I would retire in Scandinavia. I feel like I'd be so happy there, like just being outdoors. People when you want to see people, but not a lot of people. Just surrounded by nature, mountains, water. So yeah, I feel like I identify as like a Scandinavian person.
I'm in for that.
Interiorly. But yeah, no, that was a bucket list destination for me, just to see Svalbard. And especially I wanted to see it when there was still snow. In the summer months, there's not as much snow. I know one of our other agents recently just went on a cruise and they also went to see Svalbard. But I specifically wanted to see when there was still snow because I feel like that's just what is so beautiful about it and so different from my normal life. And just, again, going to the grocery store there, I got some, grocery bags from the grocery store that I had watched YouTube videos about. So that was really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I think we have to also talk about Dubai a little bit because I think it's becoming a very popular destination and it's such a different destination from some of the others that we've talked about. So tell me about your trip to Dubai.
Yeah, definitely. Dubai is also definitely a hot spot these days. I have clients that are going there in January. So we went on the way or after in the same trip as we went to India for a wedding. So then we went to Dubai because it's only a few hours from where we were in India. So when you're on that side of the world already, it's more convenient to go. Dubai, honestly, it's like Miami, but bigger, if that makes sense. It was so futuristic, such a wealthy city, honestly. Like everywhere is so clean. There was no trash on the ground anywhere. Really no homeless individuals. Everyone's very like put together. I feel like the service that we experienced in hospitality and restaurants and all that was really, you could see that people really wanted to do their job and do it well because a lot of them were like they immigrated or were expats living in the country and they wanted to be there. It wasn't just like they were here and they were just trying to get by through the day. They really wanted to provide the best service. It's the landscape is, I don't know if you can call it landscape. I mean, it's massive skyscrapers and then you have the beach. The hotels are some of the best in the world. We stayed at this place called Address Beach Resort. They have the Address hotels. They have a bunch in Dubai and they're very famous in Dubai. There's one called Address Skyview that has an infinity pool that like looks out over the cityscape. The one that we stayed at still might be the highest infinity pool in the world.
Your pictures were amazing from
I mean, I stayed, it was for the pictures, obviously. Yeah. I had found that hotel like at the beginning of the year. We had gone in December and I booked it like almost a year in advance because I was like, nope, this is it. This is where we're staying. I need to be in that. Exactly. I need to be in that infinity pool. And that was incredible. Like just being out there in the pool, I don't know how many, 70, I can't even remember, like 70 floors up or something, looking out at the cityscape and then the beach on one side. It was like, I could stay in that pool all day and I'm sure you could too. I'm sure many people could. Yeah. We were there over Christmas actually, and it was kind of interesting because it was the first Christmas that I had that wasn't cold and at home, but it was cool to see the city like all decorated for Christmas. Even though it's not like a major Christian country, they still really went all out with the Christmas trees everywhere. And it was a nice warm Christmas. And then I think we did do a desert safari. So that's sort of like a must do when you go out to Dubai. And there's a bunch of different tour companies that do them. And as a travel advisor, we can help match our clients to find these desert safari excursions for them. But definitely highly recommend that. However, I will say, if you are really prone to getting car sick, it can be a little tough because they drive you all over the sand dunes. Like that's part of the experience. And I don't usually get car sick. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I can really definitely see. Yeah, I was like starting to feel a little bit like, ooh, but thankfully that part wasn't too long. And we got to ride the camel. Then we went to like a camp in the evening where they had like belly dancers, people doing like fire stuff. I don't really even know what you call them. And then like an amazing dinner and just out in the desert, like at night, it was a really cool feeling.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Your pictures from Dubai, I just thought were stunning. Like, that's definitely on my list. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's definitely on my short list.
Yeah, no,
sure.
Absolutely. Highly recommend it. Oh, and also the other thing is when you go, highly recommend the Emirates business class lounge.
That looked amazing.
I know they fly. Yep. I know they fly direct from Chicago as well. My clients are going to be flying them in January from Chicago. And we flew them from, was it New York or JFK? I can't remember. One of those. But that's a really cool plane because it has the bar on the plane and the lounge is fantastic. And yeah, just a really nice experience, a really nice way to get there and get back. Yeah.
Makes it a lot easier when you're going that far to have that kind of experience too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So any other trips that have stood out in your personal travels that you feel like fit that bucket list adventure that you want to share?
I feel like I've traveled around to a bunch of places, and I think one of the other places that stands out as different and definitely off the beaten path is this little island off the coast of Nicaragua called Calala Island. This was actually, I think, right when I joined Pineapple Escapes.
I remember
it was for my it was for my birthday. And to be honest, I will say I didn't really know what we were getting into. I just saw that they had availability over my birthday and I was like, oh my God, we're doing this. Because I'd heard like some really cool things about it. And then it turns out it is an adventure. It could be considered a bucket list adventure just to get to the island. You have to take like this tiny plane from one side of Nicaragua to the other side of Nicaragua. And then you basically have to take this like 2-hour fishing boat type thing, literally like a small little fishing boat, 2 hours or so off the coast to get to the island. And while you're on the boat, you are boating past, I guess what is considered their like Coast Guard people who are literally just standing out there with like massive rifles. And like my husband, who really only travels because he loves me and not because he actually enjoys to travel, he was like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening here? But yeah, it was an interesting adventure to get over there. And the resort, actually the general managers of the resort, they prepare you for the trip over. Like they give you a call usually a day or two before. And they're like, okay, so this is what's going to happen tomorrow. Like some guy's going to meet you at the airport. You're going to take this tiny little plane and then you're going to take this like tiny boat across for a few hours across the ocean, whatever, to get to our island. And then when we got there, so it was literally White Lotus. Like the boat pulled up, the general managers and the whole staff of the island, they're out on the deck. They sing to you. They like welcome you in. I was like, that was kind of the first time I'd experienced something like that. So I was like, wow, this is really something. And then the island itself only has a max of 8 guests, I think it was. Like they have 4 cabanas and the whole island is just, it's a really small island, but the whole island is just the resort and the resort amenities. Yeah. So it's just like the cabanas were so dreamy, like just beautiful, like open air shower. The walls are just these like, I guess pine leaves or something. I don't know. I had pictures, but the architecture was really cool. And they're very private. And then you have like a pool overlooking the ocean. The food was phenomenal. Like everything was freshly cooked and the whole staff for the island is just catered to the resort. So it's a private island resort, basically. Yeah. So that was definitely a very unique getaway that I would say, again, working with a travel advisor is advantageous because the travel advisor can really tell you if you're a good fit for this type of getaway or not. Because I would be honest, like it is really luxurious when you get there. But one, the bugs can be really bad. The no-see-ums can be really terrible. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I would say it's not necessarily for everyone if you're not ready for the adventure to get there and back. Although they do have a private, I think you can private charter or helicopter, one of those. So you don't have to do the boat ride if you get like seasick. So that is an option, obviously, for an added cost. But yeah, I would say experiencing these trips helps us then be able to guide clients and really determine like, is this person the right fit for this trip? Because you might really like the idea of a private island, but if you don't like the idea of being out in the nature with the bugs and then making the way to the private island, it still might not be the right fit for you.
Right. And I feel like that's the benefit of working with a travel agent. Most of our advisors only sell places they've personally been. I know for example, I sell where I've been, what I've done. And I think that makes a big difference. Like, it's hard to explain, and if someone reaches out and wants this private island, I know I can turn to you and say, hey, can you please help them? Like, I don't know. You've been there. You can explain this. You can qualify them. You can see if this is really what they're truly wanting. And I think that's the benefit of working with a team like ours as well, is we have agents who do all different types of trips. Mm-hmm. And so there's always someone who has some experience with wherever you're wanting to go. But I do think it makes such a big difference to have someone who's personally been there. I know you can research on your own, you can do your own backgrounds and those sorts of things to find things that you like. But until you're in it and you've done it and seen it and have your sandals on the ground, it's really hard to fully understand that. And I think that's really the value that we provide, is real people who care about you, care about your trip, and want to help you pick the right trip as well. Because sometimes, I mean, like, I think that would be amazing, but then you mentioned bugs and I'm like, oh, like,
yeah,
like, I don't know. So, I mean, it still sounds amazing and I could handle the travel to get there, but bugs, questionable. So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. It was one of those bucket list items that, like, we're probably good. Like, we probably don't need to go back now that we've experienced it, but it was an amazing time. You know?
Yeah. I feel like Mike and the kids and I have done some bucket list trips. Some of those big things like the safari in South Africa. Mike and I did the Galapagos last year. That was amazing. We've done the Mediterranean and Mediterranean cruises. We've done Iceland, but there's still so much that's on my list. I still want to go to Antarctica. I want to go to the Arctic Circle, Maldives. I mean, there's just so many things that I still want to do. So I know that you still have a list of bucket list travel that you want to do too. What's on your list and what's probably the next 2 or 3 that you have there at the top?
So I have a really long list, so I'm not going to go through all of it. Yeah, I'm sure everybody does. That would just take too much time. I mean, I'm decently well-traveled for someone, I think, who is my age and also works full-time, who works full-time not as on this, in addition to being a travel agent, and also now for having a baby. But I still don't think, I'm not like the world's most traveled person. So obviously, like, there's a lot of places, there's more places on my list than places that I've been. And the list just, it grows. But I think maybe not in the next few years, but definitely high on my list is, speaking of the Arctic Circle, is Greenland, which also I think is a hot spot these days, actually, because I think it's Newark or United is starting flights to Greenland.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's going to become easier to get there. So I think actually tourism is going to peak or increase in Greenland in the coming years. So that's on my list for sure. Maldives is on my list as well. I'm thinking maybe our 10-year anniversary in a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That or Bora Bora. I'm debating between the two.
St. Regis, Bora Bora.
Yeah, I know. I want definitely one of those overwater bungalows. I really like the Ritz-Carlton Maldives.
Yes.
It's got like these circular rooms, which is really cool. Or the Waldorf Astoria there.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that's on my list. Yeah. Hiking in Patagonia. That's been on my list for a long time.
Yeah. I love all those. Like Machu Picchu's on my list too. We were so close when we went to Galapagos, and like we still have kids at home, so it's hard to be gone too long. But I'm like, we should have extended. And yeah, it's just hard. And my list is super long too. I have a Mac, so I keep a sticky note, like one of the Mac stickies, and it just has my whole list, and like, it changes and I move things around and then I add more, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get through this? But my goal is for my kids to get to all 7 continents before they graduate from college. I don't know if I'll get there. So we still have Australia and Antarctica after our next trip. So, but that's kind of my goal, is at least
that's
to
a great
get all
goal.
the continents. So
I love that.
Yeah. But it's just crazy. Like, there's just so much that would be fun. And so many things that we want to do. So
Yeah.
if you had somebody who was reaching out and they didn't know what they wanted to do, what's one trip that you think would be a winner no matter who they are?
Ooh. So like a couple, a family, doesn't really
Let's
matter.
do a couple.
Okay. Well, personally, I gravitate towards like epic kind of landscapes and nature and outdoorsy type trips. I mean, I love cities, but I just feel most like fulfilled, I guess, in a beautiful landscape. So I really love Norway. I feel like you can't go to Norway and not be in awe. And there's beautiful cities there as well. So you can definitely get that piece of it, the city life, and just being out in some of like the most beautiful parts of Earth. And it's relatively accessible from the States, more so than I love New Zealand as well, but that's obviously a farther trip. So yeah, I really gravitate towards those types of destinations. And like Switzerland too. Like Switzerland is some place that I want to go back to and just spend a lot more time there and like hike in the mountains and all that stuff. And there's some really nice hotels in Switzerland as well that are on my bucket list.
I love that. So let's also talk about a family real quick. So since you now have a little one, I'm sure that has changed some of your perspective with travel, but I'm sure you're also like me and you're like, my kids are going to travel. It just is what it is. So what would you say your first big bucket list trip will be with Viv?
Ooh. So Viv is currently 8.5 months. So I think next winter, like February, March, I think I want to do a cruise, like a Caribbean cruise with her.
That's a good start.
Yeah. Either that or honestly like a slow type of Europe trip where we just sort of pick a destination, like a nice city, like maybe Lisbon or something like that, and just sort of have enough to do in the immediate location without having to plan a bunch of things, which I'm sure many people know is
flexible.
Yeah, exactly, which is tough with a toddler. So I'm between, I do think the Caribbean cruise part is probably what we want to do. I just have to narrow down itineraries and whatnot.
And figure out which islands and
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of like long-term bucket list with the kids, I hope to have more kids, and a safari is high on that list. So, because my husband is not entirely convinced. So I'm hoping that like the kids in the future can convince him to want to do a safari. So yeah, that's on my like big, I guess, bucket list for a family.
My kids, our first trip to Europe, we did a Disney cruise. And so that was perfect.
Okay.
We went to London for a few days on the front end, and then it went up around Iceland, down through Norway, and then ended in Denmark. So it was perfect. Okay. It was great for the kids because you unpack once. The food is all normal kid food. So that was perfect when my kids were younger. And then we did our safari. My son was 11 and my girls were 9. And my husband also was, it was perfect age. And they had like these little books, and they were able to collect dung. And we still have these little books filled with random animal dung. Great. But my husband was not convinced either. Like I booked it. Like I found these great flights and I just booked it and told him we were going. And he was like, what? And it ended up being one of our best trips ever. Like, and they were great ages for it. So definitely an excellent bucket list trip with kids, I think. So definitely put that on your long-term list and look at,
for sure.
I found these great flights.
Yeah,
what was I going to do?
Sorry, can't pass on that. No, I'm hoping the kids will be big animal lovers and will just be my spokespeople in the future. But that's what I was thinking. Around like the 10-year-old age would be like
perfect.
Very magical. Yeah.
Unlike anything else you could possibly do. It's amazing. So any last bucket list thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, too many. It's like, I mean, the whole world is a bucket list.
Absolutely it is.
It really, yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's personal. I have a lot of bucket list destinations that are, again, like very outdoorsy, very like hiking, landscapes, all that kind of thing, like nature-y.
Yeah.
And I don't need much for those types of trips. Just good people I love and just be outdoors. But I also have trips where it's all based on the hotel and the resort, right?
Yeah,
like I have a list of, right. And the resorts, the high end resorts that I would love to stay at. So that's an ever growing list, but
I feel
that's a fun list. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your thoughts on bucket list adventures. And we can definitely help with any type of trip that you are planning. If you are thinking about a trip coming up or in the future, we have someone who has probably been there and can help. So please reach out if you're ready to check a bucket list trip off your list. And until next time, remember, travel makes life sweeter. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Travel Tidbits Podcast, where we believe travel makes life sweeter. The team at Pineapple Escapes Travel would love to help you plan a trip filled with lasting memories. Visit us online at www.pineappleescapes.com to start planning your next adventure.